stopped reading Mark's Gospel. For the next 5 Sundays, we're reading St. John, where John's speaking of the Eucharist. Even though John in his own Gospel does not have the institution of the Eucharist, he talks very much about Jesus as the bread of life. Bishop Dunn has asked that we do this to prepare for the coming Eucharistic Congress here in the diocese in October. He is worried, and all of us are worried for our church, that many people, over 40% of the people, do not agree that Jesus is truly present in the Eucharist. They say it's only a symbol. The bread and wine is only a symbol. But you who are gathered here, you believe in the depth of your heart that it's not just bread anymore, it's the body of Jesus. Not symbolizing, it is the body of Jesus, the center and source of our faith. Many people now, do not believe in the Trinity, that there's one God in 3 persons. Many people do not believe in a physical resurrection of the body, that Jesus rose physically. It's because of these things that we hope to be able to begin to renew our faith. People say, well, whether it's God, whether it's the Jewish people or the Muslims or the Christians, it's all the same God. Yes, God is God, Yahweh, Allah, but we as Christians believe that our God is a Trinity, one God in 3 persons, that our God loved us so much that he sent Jesus down on earth, and Jesus shows us the Father. Jesus shows us who the Father is, a God of love and mercy. And the Spirit is there to keep us alive. We need to always remember that our God is a God of love and a God of mercy. That our God provides for us. Our God provides for us. As we heard in the psalm, you open your hands to feed us and you satisfy our needs. Our God can be trusted. We need to learn to trust God. In the stories this morning, when the farmer brought the barley loaves and the grain to Elisha, he said, that's not enough. That won't feed it. Elisha says, give it to us. It was taken and blessed, and they all ate, and there was some left over. In the gospel of the loaves and fishes, we can't buy enough. There's not enough here. For 5 months' wages, 6 months' wages only gives them a little bit to eat. We'll send them away. Jesus says, no, ask them to sit down on the grass. And then Andrew says, there's a little fella here, he brought his lunch with him, he has a few barley loaves and a couple of fish. But what's that among so many? Jesus said, bring it to me. And Jesus took the bread and the fish. He blessed it. Then they just shared it out. They shared it out. And when they shared it out, there was enough for everybody, and some left over. And that's our God. Our God is a God of abundance. When we use wisely what he has given us, there's enough for all of us and some left over. The prayer when the priest is offering the bread at Mass, at the beginning, it says, blessed are you, Lord God of all creation, for from your goodness we have received the bread we offer. Fruit of the earth and work of human hand, we come for us, our spiritual food. We need to stop and realize all that we have is gift. God provides in abundance for all of us. You ever stop and think when you eat, really it's a gift from God? The soil, the seed, the sun, the harvesting, it's all gift. Without God, without God's creation, there wouldn't be any food at all on the earth. God provides for us every day. God provides for us every day, many more than 5,000. We need to pause from time to time and reflect on God's goodness, that how good God is that he provides for us. God has blessed us with such generous provision, we should be willing to share some of the gift of our food with others, as St. Paul mentions that we should do in the reading. But we know, even though there's plenty of food, they tell us that close to 900 million people or more will go to bed hungry tonight. Every few seconds, a child will die from hunger. And we know not only hunger because of climate change and war and different things, even our own country here because of low wages, because of many other problems, disability. Food insecurity is a problem here too in our own country. Food banks are growing up all over the place. Every Thursday I go up to the food bank that our parish shares with the Baptists. When I first went there about 4 years ago, we had about 80 families would come. Now we have about 140. There's a growing of poverty. In the midst of all of the wealth and all of the food around us, there's hunger at home, there's hunger on a worldwide basis. We should be grateful to God. And one way to show our gratitude is that we should be conscious of the poor, of those who have less than us, at home and other places. God perhaps permits so much poverty in order that we who are well can have the opportunity to help others as God would have us help them. And we need to ask the questions, why is there poverty? Don Helder Camara, who was in Brazil, in Recife, he said one time, when I give the people food to eat, they say, oh, he's a saint, he's a saint. When I ask the question, why are they poor? They say, he's a communist, wants to upset the apple cart, asking those questions of why they're poor. And the great Gandhi once said, if God was to come back to the earth, he'd probably come as bread, because it's so needed. Yes, we need to ask the questions of why people are hungry. 35% of all of the food that is harvested in our world is not eaten. 35% of all the food harvested is not eaten. That's in about a third of all the food they say that's prepared in restaurants is thrown out. And ask yourself how much of your own food from your table gets thrown out. There's hunger. We need to ask the questions. Why are people poor? Don't have decent wages. Rents are too high. There's real poverty. Why is there war? And we need to try to do what we can to see the world with the eyes of God. God provides for us. There's abundance. We need to learn to share. When we gather for Eucharist, we learn to share. We learn to see. The miracle of the multiplication of the loaves and fishes reminds us of God's generosity. You and I, we experience the generosity of God every time we sit down to eat. When we are thanks for what we have. And we should be especially thankful when we come to receive the Eucharist. The experience of generosity should result in enlarging of our hearts and a desire to be generous towards those who are less fortunate than ourselves. I'll tell you a little story. There was a priest, his name was McCarthy. He was an American from out around Seattle somewhere. He worked in Altiplano in Peru, high up in the mountains between Peru and Bolivia by Lake Titicaca. When he got old and tired, he went home and went to the priest where he was living in an apartment. He said, now look, can I use your fridge here and your stove here? He said, oh yeah. So he went and got one of those push carts that you probably get from Sobeys, and might have stole it, I don't know. Anyway, he got his push cart and he got a container to make coffee in, an urn to make coffee in. He made sandwiches, and he'd go out and he'd sit down in the park. And the poor from the area would come and visit him and sit down, and he would chat with them and talk with them and share a sandwich and ask why they were poor and what their problems were. And pretty soon, there's a big article in the newspaper about him. Priest loves the poor and shares with them. And then he was on television. Same thing. Priest loves the poor and shares with them. Some of his fellow priests saw that and said, we'll give him a hand. So they sat down and made out checks, $25, $50, $100, whatever. They sent the checks to him. He took the checks, took them out of the envelopes, put them in another envelope, addressed them back to the person who had sent them with a brief message: make your own damn sandwich. Yes, we need to make our own damn sandwiches. We cannot deny, we cannot be afraid of the poor. We need to be willing to touch them, be with them, to share with them, to listen to their stories, at home and abroad. So together to celebrate Eucharist today, may our hearts be open to realize that God is so abundant and so good to us. We must learn to share with those who have less than us.